hold on.
Hey guys, this is Joe and Justin with Tuning Tuesday, episode 30, with the big 3-0 finally.
Are you 30 already?
No, not quite. 2 episodes ago, the Tuning Tuesday was my age, but not this time.
Interesting.
I'm old.
I can't keep track of everybody's age anymore.
You do got a lot of people working for you now.
There are a lot of people that work at VMP. 17 to be exact.
Yeah, that's a couple.
You remember when it was
3.
3 or 4?
Yeah,
3 or 4? Wow.
that's crazy.
That is crazy.
So where do we want to start today? Do you want to start with some of the stuff that's been going on in the shop, or?
Yeah, man, it's been a week. A lot's happened.
You just went to American Muscle last week. Was that Friday and Saturday, or was that a Saturday only type thing?
It was the American Muscle Show. It was Saturday only, but we were up there visiting Bill at CJ Pony Parts, meeting with the American Muscle on various product lines of ours they carry, tuning, superchargers, all that stuff. So,
in terms of turnout, how's that event compared to Carlisle?
it's off the hook. And I should say, it's off the hook. It's all late model Mustangs. Carlisle's like every Mustang ever made.
Okay, so kind of like Fox bodies or even older and then Ford, whereas this is kind of like a maybe new edge and newer type stuff?
Yeah, a lot of new edge and newer. I think we got some B-roll. I had to drive around at 20 miles an hour to catch all this, but Naval Grove's an awesome track. It's huge. There's big grassy fields inside the track, and they were full. Place was full of vendors. Ford Racing was there. Kooks was there.
Nice.
Mishimoto. A couple
The whole family.
suspension companies. Yes, there's a big penguin for Mishimoto. Yeah, we did some drag racing. Had some jet cars.
How'd the drag racing turn out? I know I didn't really get to see any of it.
Good. VMP sponsors and organizes the drag races, and we had 10 of our 10 people go down the track. Everything from the likes of Carlos Sobrino to Rebecca in the F-150.
For the people that don't know, Carlos Sobrino's Coyote stock.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
The Fox body with a Coyote that runs 970s.
A naturally aspirated Coyote in
Yes.
the 970s. Nice.
Gives some of those blower street cars a run for their money.
A hell of a run for their money.
We had a very closely matched race between him and Kellen.
Kellen Stone?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess we'll start taking questions in?
Yeah, let's talk about all the things tuning.
Tuning related stuffs. Do we have a giveaway or anything that we had to talk about this week?
Well, so on Burnout Box, they're going to give away a $100 gift certificate. So tune into Burnout Box on Thursday night at 6 p.m. Eastern to find out more about that promotion.
Oh, damn. And I know that we announced the winner from last week. We ever get in touch with him on the meme caption thing?
Yeah, I already reached out to him, and his prize package has been sent.
Awesome.
Nice.
So if he's out there, I didn't see him log in yet, but if he's out there and he gets it, let us know.
Nice.
Send me a picture with it. But yeah, so that's already been sent.
Okay. Justin's trying to play footsies with me. Or kneesies, whichever one you call it. What we got coming through there, Miss Carrie?
We don't have a whole lot yet.
Okay.
Stylex says, would like to hear your thoughts about factory wideband sensors.
They're badass.
They're awesome. I'd be curious to see what his thoughts on questioning them would be. They work great. I think it was a good move on Ford's part, putting widebands in the cars.
I recently found out that like other auto manufacturers don't put widebands in their cars. I
Isn't
was
that
just
weird to
blown
think about?
away.
They're still on that narrowband stuff. I mean, from an emissions standpoint, narrowbands work great. They do their job, they hunt around Stoic, and done.
So for those of you that aren't aware, when the Coyote came out in 2011,
They all say all dominant.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did it start with 10 F-150s?
little known fact, it started with the 09 F-153 valve.
Okay.
And I remember asking SCT, well, how do I change air fuel ratio here? Oh, it's closed loop at Watt. What do you mean it's closed loop at Watt? Oh, it has a wideband. So closed loop versus open loop. Open loop reads a defined set of parameters and just does whatever it wants.
Commands fueling based on tables instead of
Yeah.
taking feedback.
Closed loop takes feedback, and it commands what it wants. It reads feedback from a sensor and uses a PID loop to adjust that command to get the desired value. And closed loop is awesome because you're always targeting the desired air-fuel ratio. As
Which
long as-
around idle part throttle is going to be stoic, which is 1408 slash 14.3 slash
That's kind of
14.7.
lean, Joe. That's
My
another-
car's lean at idle and part throttle. It's showing 14.7.
It's normal for your car to be lean at idle and part throttle.
Yep.
At wide open throttle, though, you want to see that power-enriched fuel. You want to see that lambda come down to between 11.5 and 12, depending on the setup. Even richer in cap protection.
And I know some 3 valves are run even leaner than that.
Yeah, man, 3 valves will make power like NA at like 13.5 to 1.
Yeah, I don't know if they, like old school terminology, just have a really slow burning head or what, but they seem to be completely happy at like 87 lambda and then 29, 30 degrees of timing on NA setups. It's crazy.
Yeah, throw everything at the 3 valve. But then you get into Coyote. You want to run a Coyote about 12.5, 12.7 at watt, which, oh, by the way, factory wideband's rated lambda. Just work off lambda. It's way easier than air fuel.
Yeah, it's kind of like looking at a ruler, being used to seeing, the ruler measures whatever needs to be measured. And you can use a ruler in metric or standard, but at the same time, it is still the same measurement. It's just measured 2 different ways. And that's how I like to compare AFR to lambda. Lambda is the measurement. Whether it's metric, standard, however, whatever units you use, lambda is the standard.
Do you have a question, Gary?
The same person wants to know, is it worth installing bungs after aftermarket O2 sensors?
Aftermarket O2 sensors?
For aftermarket O2 sensors.
For aftermarket O2 sensors. Okay.
I don't think so, unless you're just looking for redundancies for your redundancies, because you have one for bank 1 and bank 2. So you have
2?
You have 2 widebands. 1 could tell you most of the story. 2 tells you the entire story. Adding another one is just kind of like, all right, well, do you have error in your factory wideband calibration, or did you not do a proper fresh air calibration on your aftermarket wideband, or is the aftermarket wideband just not quite as accurate as a stock wideband?
Whose story should you trust?
I trust Ford's story.
Yeah, I would not bother with aftermarket wideband's on a 2011 up vehicle unless you have a very specific reason, like you're trying to do like a fail-safe gauge or something like that for a nitrous or a water meth kit. Factory widebands work great. We've always found them to be accurate. I do want to add, if they were in the manifold before a turbo, the back pressure would skew their readings. But other than that very unique situation,
Yeah,
they
if
work
you're
great.
running a PD blower, a centrifugal supercharger, naturally aspirated, running the factory widebands in the factory location, or an aftermarket short tube or long tube headers, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Styler came back and said, excellent answers, thank you. Jeff Scarlin chimed in and said, what did he say? Factory widebands equal remote tuning awesomeness.
Yes.
Fact.
Yes.
And Jeff also has a question. He says, do the 11 plus GT500s have factory widebands also?
They do.
Yep.
2010, they have narrowband sensors, but they got the NOx sensors that the 1112s have, just not the same strategy, it seems, in terms of NOx calibration, but they do have NOx sensors, just standard narrowbands.
A 2011 GT500 computer is actually the same as a Coyote computer with the VCT turned off. And of course manual trans only, because there was never an auto trans GT500.
Big Daddy Trucker says, question for you. If I put a set of long tube headers on my 17 GT, can I tune it with a SCT 93 octane tune, or do I have to go with a VMP custom tune?
So I don't think there's a file loaded into the value files that SCT loads on the devices for long tubes.
Yeah, I don't think they do that.
But to the same effect, is it something that's absolutely necessary or the car is going to blow up? No.
It'd be ideal to tune it for long tubes, but the car's still going to run.
Yep. So to, I guess, more directly answer your question, you don't have to get a custom tune, but the stuff that you have available to change to you on the SCT handheld will not allow you to make any changes for long tubes, at least that I'm aware of.
Okay. Shannon says, what's up, guys? I have a Gen 2R on an 09 GT500. What other mods would it take to get this car to 750 real wheel safely on 93?
In my opinion, not going to happen on 93. Not unless you're really cranking on it a little bit harder than you probably should be. I've seen 700, 720, but I don't think I've ever seen a 750. Maybe cams.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that aspect.
Cams, yeah. I've seen people do it without cams, but you have to have like a happy dyno and the stars have to align. And there's various ways to have a happy dyno. You can cool the car down really good, get a really good number out of the dyno. But yeah, so you're asking for a lot there. 93, you got the smaller blower. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more octane is going to be your easiest solution to reach that horsepower goal. Like 93 with Torco or Boostane, race gas, or E85. To do E85, you're going to have to do a full fuel system and all that other stuff. So,
but I used Boostane in the truck this weekend. Seemed to work good. We'll be using that on the dyno here. I mean, that stuff's easy to use.
Okay.
We've kind of answered this before in the past, but it's being brought up again. Kat wants to know what's a good, efficient way for someone to learn how to tune having no experience.
Practice and trying to think of the name for this. Practice and teaching. It's not the word I'm looking for, but
If you got somebody that can teach you, is that what you're saying?
ish.
Like a mentorship?
Not even necessarily mentorship, but training courses and practical application learning by yourself. So if you don't know a lot about how a gasoline internal combustion engine works, I don't recommend starting by tuning your own car. I'd recommend taking a couple precursor courses on how an internal combustion engine works and the basic premise behind tuning, and then kind of play with your own car and kind of feel it out. And then as you want to do more complicated setups like turbo, supercharger, stuff like that, experience is really going to be king.
Tinkering?
I wouldn't even say tinkering. I would try and take a very scientific approach to it. If you don't know what adjustments will have what result, monitor and record exactly what adjustments you're making and try and keep your conditions as similar as possible. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how it works or even the basic theory behind it, definitely take a couple courses on it first or talk to a few very knowledgeable people and have them teach you themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to skin that cat, and you know, if it's gonna happen for you, it's all gonna kind of come together and start to make a lot of sense. If it doesn't come together and make sense, it's just not meant to be.
Andrew, our winner from last week, just chimed in, said, "Hey guys, I got the package of goods. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the videos and good info being put out."
Oh,
Nice.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your participation in all of our activities.
Let's see. Nick says, just ordered my GT500 tune yesterday. 91 octane, Trinity TVS, stock upper lower. 1314 injectors, JLT 123. Stock exhaust, throttle body. How worried should I be about my factory cats?
On a setup like that,
Yeah.
on a setup like that with the stock pulley, stock lower, 91 octane, I wouldn't be too worried about it. The cat durability should be similar to what the 1314 is. I know the 1314 supposedly uses a different substrate, but within reason, I've never seen a factory GT500 cat fail. And
Yeah.
that's certainly still within reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that setup sounds good. I mean, it's got ample room on the injector, which we really like to see. It's got a good mass air setup with plenty of range. So we really can't ask for an easier setup to tune. I mean, 91, formerly known as chocolate milk, but not to piss off Joe. But yeah, 91 is what it is. At that boost level on that low compression engine, it's really not going to be too much of a hindrance.
James says, if you forget to uninstall another aftermarket tune before installing a VMP custom tune, is the previous tune parameters going to be present affecting the new tune?
Well,
That begs
the
the question.
shadow.
Does it write calibration or write entire?
Oh, depending on the tuning software you're using.
Yeah, and I'd say large not large case. A good global answer to that is no, it shouldn't affect anything. Most of the tuning software out there is going to write entire calibration because most tuning companies don't utilize the same strategy. So it's going to, A, recognize the strategy difference, and B, I don't think they write files like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone having a specific issue with overwriting a previous tuner's tune.
Yeah, I mean, the way stuff works these days is not a big deal.
Nick says, thank you. Glad to hear my kitties are safe. Videos is liked and shared.
Thank you, sir.
That's funny. Sergio says, any horsepower numbers yet on the Gen 3 for 0304 Cobras?
You guys are putting pressure on me. We have not had as much time as we'd like to work on that. I did find out that Rick's inexpensive in-dash wideband was not as accurate as ours. So we are getting to try some different combinations on the setup, some different pulleys. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the pictures with me, but we've got a larger cold air, larger mass air on it, evaluating how that's working from a range perspective and also an airflow and power perspective, and it seems to be worth a little bit more. And for those of you that don't know, that's going to be the big silicone tube that we're coming out with, and we're also looking at a larger mass air housing to go with it.
Nice.
So up to about 105 or 110 millimeters or so.
I've been meaning to ask you, and I'll ask you / tell you here, just so I won't forget. Rick's been having issues with his headers with how much they've been on and off with them sealing properly. How would you feel about us welding V-bands on there and getting that sealing a bit better?
You know, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm worried there's not anything left to weld to.
Okay.
Yes.
A little bit too porous, you think, with the mild steel being that old and being run on E85 for that long?
Yeah, Rick has, 8-year-old Mac long tube headers made out of mild steel, and they've just about lost it. Okay. So there's not much left there. Rick's car may be getting a couple other small upgrades to handle the Gen 3 from what I'm finding on the dyno.
10-4. Well, I guess we'll see how that situation develops.
But yeah, boost numbers are like we expected. It takes a lot less pulley to make boost with the Gen 3, so that's good. This is another situation where, I'm not sure that you need a lower pulley, just like GT500. So everything's going good on that. We're going to have a recommended fuel rail for the Terminator Gen 3. It's wider, so it's very, very tight. Some fuel rails you may need to throw a washer or two under the mounting point just to tilt them out a little bit. And I think we've got some 4 rails, which traditionally fit the best on the Gen 2. So we're going to try those out on the Gen 3 when Rick's car comes off the dyno. We've been writing up some really good instructions on the Gen 3 install. We've decided to include, I think, what is basically all new hardware.
Okay.
Everything from O-rings to the bolts that hold the intercooler. We were including that before. Now we're going to include new bolts that hold the blower to the lower intake.
Okay.
And then some, while you're in there, why don't we include new bolts for the throttle body bracket, the EGR bracket, if you use it.
By that same token, how about intake manifold to cylinder head? Because I know those are pretty notorious for breaking off.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah.
We should look into that and see if we can get a nice flange head bolt for that.
Okay.
We'll probably sell those too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of where we are with Gen 3 stuff.
Cobra Bob is saying, any numbers on Rick's car at this point?
Same question. So
Yeah.
lots of learning things on Rick's car. Not ready to release the final numbers yet.
Travis says, have you guys heard of the website called carsponsors.com? And I know it sounds funny, I just looked it up. So if so, do you think it's worth paying the one-time $79 agency fee? Have you heard of it before?
I have not.
I've seen Facebook ads for it, and
Facebook
I
ads
laughed
for it.
as I scrolled past it.
So I just went and looked it up. Now, mind you, it's a brand new website. It was just put out in 2018. I'm looking here. And basically...
Scam.
Yeah.
I know, right? So basically what it is it's proposing to be an agency that you pay $80 to. And they reach out to different sponsorships to get you free parts for your car as a sponsor. I wasn't sure if you guys had heard about it or not, and he was asking whether or not you thought it was worth him paying.
Well, we could talk a little bit about sponsorships and, since we're talking to consumers, what you need to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to spend $80 on something and hope to get a big return on that, I don't know.
You might get sponsored with some really sweet stickers for $80.
Yes, stickers.
For $80, we can hook you up with some really sweet stickers.
Sticker sponsorship. Yeah. We could even throw in a shirt or a USB drive.
Exactly. It's a pretty sweet sponsorship
And a
package.
license plate. No,
So-
I think where Joe's going with this, and this is kind of where my mind is with this, like, the car hobby is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And racing's expensive if you want to get into racing. If you do develop a partnership with a company that's mutually beneficial to both of you, you probably you're going to need to spend more money than you're getting sponsored for all of the ancillary things, travel to races and shows, and maintenance for the car, maintenance for the tow rig. It's like, well, hey, if you get maybe somebody helps you out with wheels, gets you a discount or something, a sponsorship like that, you're still going to need tires, you're still going to need mounting and balancing. So
I feel like people try to put their hands in too many pots and they can't adequately support all of their sponsors from what the sponsors get back standpoint.
yeah,
It's like you're taking essentially loans out from 10, 15 people, and it's like how's anyone getting decent coverage or
yeah.
anything like that? It's if you're gonna get sponsored for something big, they almost need to be like your only sponsor of like one of three that you can help promote well, because the
Right.
whole point behind allowing someone to be sponsored by you or sponsoring someone is that you either get marketing out of it or you get research and development, stuff like that out of it. Speaking from our perspective, we don't push parts out into the market for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, there's not free money out there.
No.
There's always some type of string attached, and there needs to be a real tangible benefit to, whoever you're working with. And most of the stuff these days is in the form of you can be one of the first ones to get it, or we can support your program with advice, and we can, like, the thing that I tell people is, like, we want you to be successful, whether you buy the product from us or whether, we're helping you out with, but VMP has become a very thorough, big operation. We do everything from manufacture superchargers to install parts, and that means we possess knowledge and expertise in a lot of areas, and that, I think, is the most valuable thing to, somebody that's modifying their cars, having trusted advice.
Slab Shack, one of our regulars, says on a 14 GT500 with full exhaust throttle body, cold air, and a 2.4 upper, wants to add 10% lower. What upper should I back off to, or can I do boost pumps and keep the 2.5 93 octane?
Slab Shack has a GT500?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Who would have thunk with a name like Slab Shack?
He's a funny guy.
I'm just going to give you a hard time, Slab Shack.
He's good people. If you go with like a 10% lower, I don't really see you needing to drop the upper pulley or increase the upper pulley size to try and drop boost the other way, because 2.5 and a 10% is what I would consider the limit on 93. I wouldn't really want you going any further than that, but at the same time, you don't want to negate the benefits of putting a lower pulley on by putting a larger upper on. It's like, all right, well, technically you have a little bit more mechanical advantage on the twist, and you have a little bit more belt wrap, but...
I mean, I think where Jared's going with that is a 10% is equivalent to two pulley sizes, so going from like a 2.6 to a 2.4. So if you go back to a 2.6, you've negated the benefit of the 10% other than better engine harmonics in theory and less belt slip, and like you said, the advantage there. So, man, I think if I was gonna 13, 14 GT500s, those suckers are on the knock sensors all the time. Just a matter of how good the fuel quality is. I would focus on fuel quality, and the power will come.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying, add octane first, and then
Yeah. Add the lower and the octane, and we'll be rocking.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Slabcheck, maybe you can offer an opinion on this. So to throw this out there, since you're a 1314 GT500 owner, high flow elbows and little doodads like that to extend the performance potential of the Trinity blower. Let us know what the value is to you of stuff like that.
AKA put a dollar amount on how much you'd be willing to spend for a throttle body and elbow upgrade on something like that for a net gain of 30 to 50 horsepower.
Is that something that's on his mod list? Are you happy with the products in the marketplace right now? Do you think there's room for other products? I ask that because like before the Gen 2 came out, we had our VMP high flow elbows for like everything, and now people ask, well, I want one for the 15 to 17 Roush, I want one for the Trinity, and we never made them for those because we make a whole blower for both applications, but not everybody can afford a whole blower.
AKDMB says, with these newer PCMs 2011 plus, can you really end up with an exact command timing value? In other words, say you want a car to see a consistent 17.23 degrees of timing, can you do it?
You absolutely can.
Can you calculate 16 weighting factors in your head simultaneously?
Yeah.
Across the distance of mapped points?
Yep, with snap to line and snap to point sections.
No, really, all jokes aside, I think, like Joe said, I think it's easy, it can be done.
If anything, it's easier to do it that way than it is to calibrate each weighting factor for MBT and then calibrate each weighting factor for borderline knock, and then zeroing everything else out because you hate compensators and you think that the car should only run under one set of conditions. But I don't know that I'd like to do that. Well, I can say for a fact I wouldn't like to do that because it isn't always optimal for a car to see 17.23 degrees of timing. You don't want it to see 17.23 when it's 40 below zero, and then 17.23 when your ACT is 195. There's a reason why timing moves around as much as it does.
Internal combustion engines need different things.
Slabshack chimed in again and he said he has the BPS elbow and the 67 twin jet.
Oh, okay.
Nice, he's already done the basics of the upgrades then.
Sweet.
Stylex says, any thoughts on header coatings, header wraps? Same answers for E85.
You did it with the boss and Rebecca's car. What do you think about header coatings and header wraps?
Hey, there's a car out there with beautiful blue, pearl, purple ceramic coating all over the exhaust. Cost per dollar for low. Cost per dollar is low, or benefit per
dollar per horsepower or benefit?
Dollar per horsepower or benefit per dollar is low. So here's my take on it. There's a lot of ceramic paints and stuff like that out there. I don't know. There's some products out there. Swain Tech has actual 15 thou thick spray-on ceramic coating. That shit is badass. And but at the end of the day, I would use stainless headers and I would spend your money on other stuff. I mean, when you see some of the road race guys that are class limited, they'll do crazy ass shit like wrap their headers to try.
Well, that's, in my opinion, that's what every class limited class does, regardless of motorsport. You have class limited motorcycle classes like LM, GT classes, and F1. If they have a set, you can only do this, 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 and this. Everything else is up for interpretation. They do everything else they can to get every little horsepower, every little advantage. So if you look at boating, I saw a video the other day of a boat with twin engines idling, or one of the engines idling, and then him trying to get the other engine started. I don't know whether it was a tune or it was running on E85 and it was carbureted and it didn't know how to fucking start. But my point behind that is that he jumped into the back of the boat, and after one engine had already been running for a minute, put his hand on the header, and my first reaction was, oh, this is one of those videos, this is bad. And then he stood on it with his shoes, and he had his hands on it, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? How is that possible? And apparently the ceramic coating that these boat guys are using is so good that after the engine's been running, you can legitimately put your hand on it, step on it, do anything with it and not burn yourself.
Well, I want to add something to that. A lot of the boats have water-cooled exhaust manifolds.
That's what it was, because it was spitting out exhaust out of the it was spitting water out of the exhaust.
So if you have, yeah, U.S. Coast Guard requirements, you have to have like explosion-proof coils and other, like all your electronics have to be sealed so they, you know, can't create sparks that could light off a fuel vapor fire. And there's all kinds of weird requirements for boats. Like if I turbocharged my boat, which I thought about at some point, I would have to build a water-cooled exhaust manifold for it.
Interesting. Yeah. I've never actually seen how those are made, so I'd be curious to see how all that's done.
I think you could do Weldells and then build a box around it to hold water, to hold coolant. And you have an unlimited amount of water.
And what I thought was interesting was that this was a tubular header, so like, how in the hell would you do that?
It could be double wall, maybe. I don't know.
I just thought it was interesting from the topic of conversation of ceramic coated stuff for the intent of keeping stuff cooler, that guy straight up put his hand on the header. And I was like, oh, what are you doing?
I will tell you, the Swain Tech headers would not put up with that. They still get full temperature, basically.
And then...
More questions?
Bam, yeah. Michael says, how much rear wheel horsepower should I get from your tune? I guess it depends on the tune. My Mustang GT 2016 automatic has a phase 1 supercharger with a Roush tune on 93 pump gas.
Ooh.
It really depends on how much that octane learn adjustment's working for you and how happy the fuel quality is. Say your fuel quality is a little subpar and the Roush cal's been in the car for a year, I mean, hell, even a month, and you've really driven it across varying conditions and it's learned the octane adjustment. And like, let's say you're on 91, going to our tune, maybe 15 to 20 horsepower. If you're on good quality fuel and you hit the limit of what the Roush cal is able to add in or what it's able to learn, we can certainly get more out of a setup like that. And we've seen pretty substantial gains on cars before.
Yeah, we've seen substantial gains.
But I don't want to give you this is exactly how much power your car is going to gain over the Roush tune, because I've seen those cars vary so much that...
You'll get a Roush tune that'll, you know, hit it off on a cold day with the right, you know, set of parameters like Joe said, then you get one that'll make crap for power. So
that, and you can dyno them back to back and see 20, 30 horsepower back to back under same day. Nothing different other than a little bit of ECT and a little bit of ACT. And
I mean, where our tuning really comes in is consistency in performance. And first thing that comes to mind with the Roush cal is a lot of delay and stock rev limiter on a supercharged engine. So tuning is more than the, you know, tuning is more
than the peak horsepower number.
Yeah, more than the peak horsepower number. The sum of the parts of the tuning is more than the peak horsepower number.
Yep.
We want to get you extended higher RPMs, because that's where the power is at. If you have to shift at 6,800, you're barely in the power band. And we want to get you more area under the curve, better throttle response. And that all translates into stuff that makes the car run faster.
Yeah, don't get too caught up on the dyno number per se.
Travis wants to know, would the Ford Performance Stage 2 Power Pack be worth it over something like a PMOS Cold Air and Tune while keeping any warranty, even with the Magnuson Moss Act?
So it's kind of like 3 questions. My opinion on if you're worried about a warranty is do not modify your car.
Yeah, because technically all that stuff that supposedly is like includes a warranty is either the dealer selling you snake oil,
or it's an aftermarket warranty.
Yeah, it's an aftermarket warranty which has like a deductible of like $5,000, not a deductible, a limit of $5,000 plus a deductible. Or like in the case of Roush has got a warranty program for their superchargers, but it expires at the same time as the powertrain warranty. So if your car's already got 15,000 miles on it, you're only getting 20,000 miles worth of warranty. And yeah, either make a decision to modify your car and deal with the consequences, or don't.
Or deal with the potential consequences, because the vast majority of people that modify their car don't have issues.
No, yeah, that's what I meant to see. You know, be prepared to deal with any consequences, but they rarely happen. I mean, yeah. Most dealers that aren't retards kind of operate around that. You know, I don't know. The Ford dealers in Florida are used to dealing with modified Mustangs, so they'll usually work with you within reason.
Slab Shack said, thanks guys. P.S. Cletus and friends were all smiles and praises on the install of his VMP equipment. Cletus had
Nice.
put out a video earlier in the week, or was it over the weekend? Maybe Sunday. Anyway, he had put out a video about the install and how easy it was. Speaking of that, several people have chimed in that obviously follow Cletus, and they are giving thumbs up for helping out Project Neighbor.
Nice, nice.
So I kind of want to throw that out there.
Glad to see everyone that likes Cletus' stuff reaching out to us.
Yeah, we'll be getting lots of comments on YouTube and stuff, so that's cool.
Stylic says Eastwood has an internal exhaust coating, but claims it shouldn't be used with superchargers. Not sure if they meant turbos.
Yeah, anybody's guess is good on that one.
James says 18 intake installed with PMOS and cat deletes on a 17 GT. Logs are showing IMRCs at 3+ volts before startup, and then 1.46 to 1.48 volts at idle. Revving watt. He's wondering whether or not it's bad wiring harness adapters or something else.
So depends on who the tune's by and how the tune is configured for the IMRCs. Tough call. If the car is running right, I don't know that I'd worry about what the IMRC voltage is as long as it's moving. But
Yeah, it sounds like it's working.
without getting into the minutia of it, like just let it happen.
We look at it as a computer doing what it needs to be doing.
Is it opening and closing the IMRCs?
Yeah.
And I know that under crank, like key on, engine off, most of the time IMRC is going to be shut. And then once you start cranking, they open up. And then once it's gotten out of like the emissions reduction region of the cal, it closes the IMRCs again for idle. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Probably been a year since I've data logged that.
Yeah, all the supercharged stuff doesn't have IMRCs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good reason for them to be there in A.
Mm-hmm.
So we prefer to keep them if you have the right hardware to connect them and everything.
Since you're talking about IMRC, Andrew Vicens wants to know, when will the IMRC harness be available through VMP?
We got prototypes, and we should be testing them this week. So ours are a little bit different. It's actually 3 harnesses and let's see, 7 connectors.
Okay.
So, but yeah, TBD on that because there's other stuff that has to come together as well besides just the harnesses. We want to have the offering good across all platforms that could use the 18 intake manifold.
Kind of like get the complete package on all the platforms and then release everything at once.
Then release them, yep.
James, who was asking about the bad wiring harnesses adapters, chimed in and says, it idles and drives fine. Feels like I'm dragging a school bus at Watt. And apparently he sent in some logs. So
Okay.
Jeff says, so if you disconnect your battery or flash back and forth between different tunes, could you be losing learned timing, aka increased, and therefore lose power? He asks because he happens to think his timing is on the soft side and he goes back and forth between 91 and E85 quite often.
So it depends on whether or not the octane learn adjustment's enabled in your cal or not. Some cals it is, some cals it's not. If you're tuned by us, again, that still applies. Some cals it is, some cals it's not. But without having your specific tune file open or looking at your logs or whether or not I know whether or not you're tuned by us, I can't really tell you whether or not you're losing power between flashes.
And I mean, I think one of the parts is that yes, reflashing the computer resets all learned parameters from idle to any octane adjustment learning.
Cam reset every time.
Yep. Keep alive memory. Boom.
And it's dead.
Do you know Oscar Morin by chance?
That's Shrek Performance, right?
Yeah, a guy out in
Okay.
Texas that builds some cool race cars.
They have the Toro on the dyno with the VMP Gen 3.
Nice, nice.
Cool.
So that should be interesting. Christopher says, my fuel pressure on my Coyote swap says should be 55 PSI. Is that on a cold or hot motor? Seems it changes. Set it to cold or hot.
Fuel pressure should not change cold to hot.
That answers that, Joe.
Yeah, key on. Try to get your pumps running at key on, engine off, and then at that point it doesn't depend on whether or not your vacuum or boost referenced or not, because it doesn't care, you're referencing the atmosphere. But set your base pressure to 55 psi.
With no vacuum.
With no vacuum and the engine not running, and then turn the key on and verify that if it's boost reference, it's going to drop. Will that be like 8 to 10 pounds, depending on how much vacuum it's producing at idle? Which that may be what he's talking about.
Yeah.
If he's looking at it at cold start, it's not producing as much vacuum as it is
On
hot restart or hot idle.
Yeah.
But just set your fuel pressure, pumps running, engine off, 55 psi, and then you should be good.
Tim is asking about our 2018 Mustang GT. Wanted to know what type of powers we're making. Stock long block.
Tim, we really want to have an answer for you, because our 2018 Mustang GT actually has all the shit on it to make power.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got long tube headers. It's got a bigger DI pump now. Of course, all the other parts to make power on it are here. I actually had some 2018 parts made up for R&D. So we've actually been getting a lot of other projects out of the way so we can move on to the 2018 and then hammer on that sucker. I guarantee we'll make more power than anybody else with that given combination of a Roush 2650 blower.
Dale wants to know if there's an 18 Roush car update.
That's
the same car.
That was it? Was that the, okay, sorry.
Yep.
It's all good. It's the same character.
Any new data on the 160 throttle body?
There's progress being made,
Yep.
but there's no defined data for open loop feed forward, effective throttle, expected idle throttling, none of that stuff yet.
We're working on that too. That's one of those engineering projects that's getting finished up.
Yeah, and we have data that's very, very, very close. It's just getting everything else to cooperate that seems to be the struggle.
That's coming from Rami
Zaidan.
That's exactly who it's coming from.
Yep.
Chad Dowd says, which would you guys prefer to tune in, a loaded or non-loaded dyno, and why?
Ooh.
Bum, bum, bum. We were talking about this at lunch today.
Both.
Yeah. It depends on what level of calibration we're talking about here. If we're talking about generating a completely new speed density calibration, loaded dyno. If it's a very well vetted setup with a very minimal change compared to what we've done previously, a non-loaded dyno works fine, especially if you're just looking for a power number.
I mean, we've got 2 dynos with eddy current, 1 dyno without, and I actually fired up the eddy current last night.
When you were playing with Ricky Bobby's stuff?
Car, yeah, because his car spins up the roller so fast with those little 26-inch, 25.5-inch SN95.
Doesn't he have like 373s or something too?
He might. Yeah, he's got an 8.8 swaps. I think he's got 373. So literally, dyno pulls 4 seconds. So something like that is making a lot of power, pulls the dyno in 4 seconds from 2,000 RPM in a manual trans.
It's a very large transient.
Yeah.
So from a tuning standpoint, when you're dialing something in, you really want to see a longer duration of load time so that you get more samples in a set area.
Yeah.
But for most of the basic stuff that we do, a loaded dyno isn't absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
For a lot of the cal development stuff, loaded dyno is awesome.
Yeah, and I mean the new softwares, DynoJet will let you do a aerodynamic simulation.
Nice.
Basically, it loads the car based on its weight, coefficient of drag. It will calculate.
Does it calculate frontal area for you? Because I know that's part of the calculation.
And you know what? You put frontal area into.
Okay.
And now it loads the car accordingly to that data. So.
And you should be able to do speed mile an hour hold. I hear that that's a bit more consistent than RPM hold.
Yeah, when I was mapping out speed density on LS engines like 10 years ago, I was using speed instead of mile an hour because it was more consistent.
Or speed instead of RPM.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but
So Chad, the simple answer is it's not required, but there's some situations which is nice to have. I'm going to run Rick's car loaded to get more sampling data on his, and I ran it though I didn't have it the load cell calibrated.
Oh,
so
man.
It didn't read out. So that's a good question. You have a dyno, a very consistent device. Dyno jets are extremely repeatable and consistent because when running it in inertia mode, you're going up a known mass against a known mass over and over again. And you use a mathematical formula to calculate power based on how much time it takes to accelerate that known mass. As soon as you load it, now you have this big electromagnetic brake thing putting force on the roller.
Which is effectively changing the amount of force it takes to rotate a set mass.
Yes. So there is a strain gauge. So the roller is on bearings, and then the electromagnetic thing is on bearings, and a strain gauge keeps the electromagnetic from spinning on its own, and strain gauge measures how much force is being put into the roller, and that goes into the calculation to determine horsepower. If you don't calibrate that strain gauge, you don't get an accurate horsepower number.
Oh, man.
As was the case last night.
The struggle.
Robert says, can I get a sticker with Joe's autograph?
Maybe. I don't know that you want my autograph. It's not very fancy. Although, as I've heard recently, some kids don't know how to write in cursive, so this might be like ancient text to people.
You could just
hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
scribble something on there.
Yeah.
Nobody, yeah. Huh.
What is that?
JP says, so I just got a 2013 Coyote and I want to go Gen 3. Can the stock OPGs handle the Gen 3 with keeping boost at around 12 to 14 PSI?
I love these questions. It's not a set power number that breaks oil pump gears. Or at least not with any correlation that I can find. I've seen people break them stock, and I've seen people break them with blowers at 1,000 horsepower.
We've never personally had OPGs like break in front of us. Never happened on the dyno. Never happened at the track with one of our cars. And the red burnout car will be getting abused the hell out of it at the track soon. Let's run that thing to 8,000 RPM just to see what happens.
Yeah, I guess we could. Yeah, we could. It'd be fun.
But, I mean, this person wants a supercharger.
Don't let a fear of an oil pump failure keep you from adding power to the car. If you have concerns about oil pump gears, save the money and put them in there. But it's not something that I think you absolutely have to have before you add power to the car. Because frankly, I think even in a stock car, they're not a bad idea to put in there.
And then maybe let's talk a little bit about how do you get oil pump gears?
What do you mean?
Upgraded ones.
So like who through or?
Well, yes, in that whole process.
So
how do
like
you install them?
Okay.
How hard it is? Who should install them?
If you are mechanically inclined and comfortably mechanically inclined to where you feel that you can take on installing oil pump gears or a crank sprocket or retiming the engine, by all means, do it yourself if you feel confident in that.
This is where we need visual support. If you have a Coyote laying on the ground, do you go, okay, I understand, or do you go, ah!
Yep, run away. I know even some techs look at all the chains and they're used to seeing like push rod overhead valve engines that are like, wow, it's a lot of stuff going on there. And then once they get into it, they realize, oh, it's just do this step, do this step, do this step, do this step, and you're fine.
I mean, I'll tell you, honestly, I'm scared of push rods.
What?
You've got all these little rod things rolling around.
Oh, you got your rocker adjustments, and you got to make sure your push rod length's right for your new cam.
Yeah, that's complicated shit. We got hydraulic lash adjusters in the Coyote. You just time these chains the right way.
And you're good.
Yeah.
But to that same end, in my mind, if you're not completely comfortable doing it, take it to a shop. Expect to pay $750 to $1,000 to have oil pump gears and crank gear installed.
We do a lot of them here, so our technicians are very proficient at them. So we charge kind of a middle of the road price because that's like a service that allows people to feel more comfortable making horsepower. So we're actually, there's an incentive for us to do it a little bit less than book rate, I think. And you know, some of that stuff too, since the engine's already apart, like we discount we may be able to discount certain other work. If you're like packaging like a blower, oil pump gears, and headers together or something like that.
Or like a lower pulley.
Yeah, balancer or
it's-
cams. Like doing camshafts, you have to take the timing chains off anyway. So the oil pump is only like another, is only a little bit more to do that. But
Yeah, probably only additional 30 minutes to an hour to do an oil pump.
yeah, so there's some potential opportunities to save time and money there. Maybe you get the blower on, and then you're like, all right, I'm good with 650, but I want to think about the next stage. So you decide to do some other stuff, and you do it all at once.
Lance says, hey guys, you have a 100 octane tune, but I'm having trouble finding 100 octane fuel in his area. You were talking about some additives. Can you explain more about them? Turn 93 into 100 octane, and what are the gains from 93 to 100 tune?
So, good question. So and Joe, you can tell me if you agree with me or not. Like 100 octane race gas that you can get from the can or get from the pump, we, as racers and tuners and stuff like that, we take that stuff as much better than pump gas, but it's a very good, economical, middle-of-the-road solution, easy access. So...
Don't have to worry about your mixture ratios, or
Yeah.
not in the sense of I have this much pump gas and I'm adding in this much race gas. What's my effective octane?
So where I'm going with this is that the commonly available octane boosters now, VP Octanium, Torco, and Boostane, they don't be scared of them. We don't tune for them like they're the uber end all be all. They're a good tool to add a lot of safety margin, and through that safety margin,
Possibly more
timing
power.
and more power. Yeah. So that's the first thing I want to preface with that stuff is that trust us to tune your car accordingly based on what you tell us you're running. Because if you were telling us I'm running straight 100 octane from the race gas from the pump at the track or the can,
Or I'm running 260 GT. It's like, all right, well we can work with that.
yeah, we're not trying to make we don't take 100 as the end all be all. So we give you like a nice middle of the road tune. The same thing with those octane boosters. But yeah, I mean that. Honestly, 100 octane is a nice buffer, safety margin, additional power over 93, additional power, proper tuning. So there's no reason not to run it. There's no reason not to run an additive.
And he's looking to quantify it too,
Yeah.
how much he's going to gain. That's the harder nail to hit with a hammer.
I have a stock naturally aspirated car with a K&N filter in the stock airbox.
15 horsepower. Maybe 20. Depends on, like if you're on 93 and you're going to 100 octane, what's the difference between 27 degrees of timing and 29? That's about what you're looking at.
How much did you count?
27 and 29.
Yeah.
Because like if it was really good quality, maybe 30, 31 in some
Yeah.
regions, but
okay, that's the first question. You really only need octane booster. You only really need more than 93 if your 93 is really shitty. You've got a power adder or you got a high compression NA engine. So that's going to determine your horsepower gains. Has he
said what's done to the car? Mrs. Keddy?
So I'd say let's give them the most common one, a blower car.
25, 30 horsepower
Yeah.
on a blower car?
I agree with that.
You concur?
I concur.
Doctor?
I'm looking to see if maybe he chimes in, but no.
Okay. And Dan, is that your water cup?
It is. I left it there.
You want some?
No, I'm good.
Seem a little thirsty.
Jay-
It's distracting.
JP says Gen 3 Coyote. Oh, it's the same question pretty much that he asked earlier. So he just asked it again. Dyno says, hey guys, a 15 to 17 S550 Roush blower versus your Gen 2R. Is that elbow rob? I think he's saying, does that elbow rob any power?
So is he asking, does the Roush Mongoose elbow rob any power? And I'd say on a basic setup like an 85 millimeter pulley, there's not much meat on that bone. When you get down to a 69 millimeter pulley, great advantage to put the Gen 2R on. What do you think?
Our inlet's bigger on our Gen 2R, but that was built for max effort setups. If you already have a Roush Mongoose setup, then I would max that out first before you go and upgrade to a same size head unit. Now, of course, upgrading to a larger displacement, more efficient head unit is going to yield results. If you haven't bought a supercharger kit yet, where I feel like we really shine is the other parts and components that we include with the supercharger kit to make horsepower. And we don't worry about warranties like Roush has to in some cases and crap like that.
And for those of us, or for those watching that haven't heard us talk about the different iterations of blowers before, I use Mongoose because that's what's familiar with me. Mongoose would be the 15 to 17 Roush supercharger design with that updated inlet elbow and the revised casting.
They call that Mongoose?
I think it was Mongoose. Or was that the 1314 GT500 code name?
1314 GT500 is Trinity. And then 11, I thought 11 to 14 was Mongoose.
We're going to have to revisit this.
Yes.
We're going to have to look at this.
15 to 17 Roush is a better head unit right from Roush. I mean, that's a nice design.
Better than their 11 to 14 head unit and...
A lot better than 11 to 14. I told them they should put that 15 to 17 head unit on all the 11 to 14 stuff. Well, so...
We'll see how that goes.
Just so you guys know, it's 2:33. We have probably about 5 more comments.
Let's hammer through those comments.
Yep.
Robert says, what pulley do you guys recommend on a Coyote with the Gen 3 for 91 octane?
92. Or are we doing an 88 as well?
We're doing an 88, but 92. Low boost.
I would start it at 92 and then see how everything goes from there. Because some places you get good quality 91, maybe run an 88, but definitely start at a 92. Stock lower.
Cobra Bob says, just an idea. Can you upsize the intercooler bolts on a 0304 Cobra to the next size thicker so you don't have to worry about snapping them off when cleaning the intercooler? He says he's done it on a stock Eaton easily. You don't have to drill out the intercooler holes to make the next size thicker.
They actually came up, Bob, because they're M5 bolts, but we use a really good grade 9, a grade 10.9 M5 bolt, and I looked at the factory bolts. They're really soft, and I think they're meant to thread lock as they go in. So that's why they break, because the threads bottom out in the hole.
Okay.
Whereas ours are actually tapped deep enough, and you just tell you to use thread locker on them.
Okay.
Gary says, on Coyote motors, will the computer automatically pull timing based on engine inlet temperature?
It sure will. That's your spark retard for ACT, or trying to think of what HP Tuners calls it. Is that IAT? HP Tuners.
Jason says, what can the Gen 3 blower get you in horsepower to the wheels on a, we've already discussed on the Cobra. He has a Mercury Marauder with a blower, Kenny Bell 2.4 on it, but thinking about VMP blower down the road. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yeah. And basically the same applies, because I don't think KB made a complete bolt-on kit. I think that would be a 0304 Cobra Eaton swap with a drop-in replacement Kenny Bell 2.4 supercharger.
And you've got to get the, I assume he's modified the car to keep the air inlet on the right side, because Marauders are reversed compared to Mustangs. But
yeah, you'd either have to relocate the battery to the driver's side of the engine bay or relocate it to the back of the car.
Yeah.
So, and this is going to be similar. Jeremy, they're still doing some testing on the 04 Cobra, but I'll read it anyway, and you guys can answer as you feel fit. What kind of gains can I expect from the new 2650 over my current 2.3 Gen 1 on an 04 Cobra, 22 to 24 pounds?
It's going to be a lot more efficient at 22 to 24 pounds. Power number gains are going to depend on the overall setup, because you can't make horsepower without supporting mods. But whereas the 2.3 was maxed out on pulley size, belt slip, everything, the 2650, I mean, we're making more boost than, we're making the same boost with as a 2.3 with the smallest pulley combo as we are with one of the largest pulley combos on the 2650.
So we're at 236. There are some more questions that came in. How about I pull those questions and we could start the show off answering those for next week?
Okay. That's a good idea.
So that way you guys can
keep on
skedaddle.
keeping on.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next week with more cool tuning and dyno stuff.
And for those that tuned in late, we will be giving away a $100 gift certificate on Burnout Box Thursday night, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. In order to win it, you have to tune in on Thursday night to see how to win it. But they will be giving away at the end of that show a $100 gift certificate.
May the odds
Cool.
be ever in your favor.
Yes.
And
Have a good
that's
week, guys.
Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe if you like these shows. The more that they're liked and subscribed, then the more we can continue offering them.
See you guys
Boom.
later.